What's going on, everyone? This is Bunny Muffins here. Today we're going to be going over what it means to be a player in each tier, such as bronze, silver, gold, platinum, all the way up to challenger, and also what it takes to get to the next tier. Some people might be hard stuck, so this video will be for you. You'll get to know what kind of techniques you're missing out on or what aspects of the games you should try to improve on, but let's just roll right down and get into it. So let's start out at Iron. These players are players that are new to the game. Maybe they only have around 5 games played. They haven't even completed their placement matches yet. They may just go for their favorite League of Legends champions or assemble a team based on League of Legends compositions instead of team fight tactics synergies. A lot of core game mechanics are pretty unknown to them. For example, they might not know what interest is. They might not even know that they get gold each turn. Instead, what these players do is they go into a game blindly. They don't know any of the champions, what each class is, what origin is, and granted, it is very difficult to get past that initial learning curve. But they don't know what items are and who to put them on. Game mechanics, PvE rounds, carousel, all of these are foreign concepts to these players, but that's okay. In time, they'll begin to learn what each stage is in the game and climb from there. However, if they make no effort to learn the game, such as what Wolf Camp is, they'll be forever stuck in Iron. Luckily for them, all they need to do is just play a few more games to try to get the grasp of how things work out, and eventually they'll learn all the champions, all the origins, and most of the game concepts as well. Next up, we have players in bronze. Players in bronze have a preliminary grasp of the game mechanics, unlike Iron players. However, knowing how the game works is not the same as understanding it and applying that knowledge to strong play. For example, bronze players may still often underestimate and die to Krugs or Wolf Camp. People in bronze still do not know the strong compositions or even the weak ones. They may hard force compositions that are not strong or only use whatever upgraded units that they receive without building class or origin synergies. Managing a balance between health points and economy is still a foreign concept, as many of them greed 50 gold with an extremely weak team at low health, or they hard roll every turn looking for that last upgrade and fall behind late game. For example, I've seen some players, they're still at level 5 or 6 towards the late end of the game, and they just fall completely behind because they have none of the forecasts completed and definitely have no legendaries yet. Next up, we're at the midpoint of where most players are. Silver players, perhaps there are a few compositions that they're pretty familiar with and pilot decently well, but silver players may often lose games where they have to play something else. For example, they could be really good at ocean mages and know exactly what to do with them, but if the game isn't handed to them, they're completely lost and don't know what to do and get 8th place in all of those games. Even though they may know of other champions and team compositions, they do not know how to properly transition into them or get into the late game build. For example, they might have a great woodland start but fail to go into different synergies that are much stronger later in the game, such as berserkers, mages, assassins, blade masters, whatever is strong during that patch. They probably watched a popular streamer play a composition, but when they tried to implement it themselves, they found themselves falling behind or not hitting the correct units. Maybe they forced that composition too hard without having the correct items. They'll probably blame that loss on RNG, but they don't often recognize when good RNG actually won them a game as well. Techniques such as scouting are still foreign to these players. Even though they may actually scout, they're not fully aware of what they should look for or how to utilize that knowledge and reflected in their play. While they may be cognizant of reaching interest thresholds, their timing of it, such as saving versus rolling versus leveling, is completely off balance. There's much to learn from here, but generally players in silvers do try to get better, which is a great sign, as they've mainly been playing the game for at least quite a while. Next up, we're at gold. At gold, you should take the game a little more seriously. Perhaps these players have downloaded a TFT cheat sheet, but actually took the time to learn it, unlike the silver players who only downloaded it and forgot about the cheat sheet. Perhaps they played a few card games in the past at a decent level, or maybe even a different auto-battler, and they've gotten past the learning curve of learning a new game. These players generally know all of the meta compositions. Perhaps they even successfully employed the concepts in my leveling guide that I released a couple weeks back. While all of this knowledge is great, these players are generally inflexible, and bad RNG such as getting no items from minion rounds or not getting their specific carousel items set them back so much that they lose the game instead of being able to salvage it. Whereas for most good players, while not hitting the items you want is always going to be a bad thing, they'll still be able to put out a playable composition after that fact. One thing gold players do have going for them is a basic understanding of the more nuanced tactics in TFT. Maybe they've started to become more engaged in knowing when to roll and when not to, and have been taking mental notes of what are good situations to do it and what bad situations are. Maybe they start to recognize when to give up on a composition. Gold is likely a place where players have been engaged in the game and are constantly learning more every time they play. Next up, we're at Platinum. At Platinum, these players have a pretty strong grasp of the game compared to the average player. Doing a strategy blindly, such as saving up gold until a minion round and then leveling up and rolling to 0 right after and repeating that process, will likely get you here since it's straightforward and a strong way to manage your economy. Again, you could learn more about this in my leveling guide for set 2, and I'll put a link for that in the description below. This knowledge alone can help you get to this tier because the game is probably 75% all about economy management. Platinum might be a place where people feel hard stuck, but that's because so few players actually make it to Platinum or even beyond. Perhaps there are many bad habits that stuck with these players from when they were gold or silver that they're actually not aware of and are unable to change without someone pointing it out. Platinum is well above average, and it takes some dedication to push further into Diamond, such as studying VODs of other players or learning from other YouTube channels. At Diamond, I call what these players have as conscious competence. They know what they need to do at each stage in the game. They play pretty well, but they spend a lot of their energy executing that blueprint. Many of the advanced and even basic concepts are skipped over in some games, even if they're very familiar with them, but they keep making those mistakes in the past and in the future. Execution is often difficult in crunch time, such as re-rolling 50 gold after a minion wave. Unfortunately, a lot of minor mistakes that they already know how to fix, they just are not consistent enough to execute them on an effective basis every game. These players may begin to think critically about managing win and loss streaks. They sometimes know when to break the rules, such as rolling before a minion round instead of saving for rolling after it, but it sometimes backfires. Perhaps they're still forcing a composition, but they know every single in and out of that strategy. If a Diamond player got there from forcing a composition, they know every single in and out of that strategy. However, maybe most of their losses result in not hitting their forced comp, and that's what might be causing them to not hit Master. If the player is an adaptable player, maybe he's only comfortable in around 80% of situations and can't quite transition every single situation yet to a respectable level. So now we get on to maybe a little bit more of the fun part. Master is where the game starts to weed out a lot of the top percent of players. You probably know around 98% of what there is to know in this game, but they just don't always apply it in the best way. One thing that separates these players from Diamond players is that all of the basic concepts are pretty much mastered, hence the name, I guess, right? And they do everything just a little marginally better than what a Diamond player does. Master players are less results oriented and instead try to find the optimal play, whereas someone in Diamond might still be thinking, oh wow, that composition got me first place 2 games in a row. Let's keep playing it, when they don't realize that no one else in those previous lobbies went for that composition, and that's why they're allowed to excel with that comp. While you can get Challenger forcing only one comp, a lot of Masters players start to learn how to adapt for most builds from many items and different champions that they're given in the beginning of the game. But one thing that Master players might lack is that they don't have every decision tree learned or even known. Also, stubbornness might be causing someone not being able to hit Grandmaster or Challenger for Master. For example, one of the players I coach, he really only likes forcing comps, and that's what's really stopping him from getting into the next tier. Now we're up to Grandmaster. There's a very small difference between Master and Grandmaster because of the way the LP system worked in the past. However, you can see Grandmasters maybe customizing their play more against the lobby instead of just making like general good choices. And that's really what's setting them apart from just like a regular Master. But again, these players are very similar in skill and there's not too much different from them. They know how the game works. They know almost everything there is to know, but maybe they just don't apply it at every game. At Challenger, you have likely reached the stage of unconscious competence. So unlike a Diamond player, where they have to put a lot of effort into doing all the correct plays, a Challenger player can do most of these executions effortlessly and don't really have to put in much thought in their play. Some of these players don't even realize that other players aren't aware of these techniques or strategies. They probably have around like 99% of game knowledge, but they still fail to apply it every game and definitely apply them less frequently than, let's say, like a top 10 player or even a top 1 player. Since everyone streams, there's really no hidden secret strategy, because you could always turn on a stream, watch the top 1 player, know all the comps they do, every decision they make at every step of the game, and just copy it yourself. There's no hidden secrets that people are hiding. And that's why I say almost every challenger has like at least 99% of the game knowledge as a top 10 player, because again, there are no secrets in this world. Everyone streams, and you could just watch someone play and copy everything they do and apply it to your own game. What sets challengers apart from other players is their consistency. Again, every player is making many mistakes, even at top 10, because there's just not enough time to do everything you want to do in a turn. You can see almost every time you see someone say, oh my god, I forgot to like place this item, or they find a 2-star or 3-star upgrade but it's still on their bench because they couldn't complete the roll downs in time. This happens all the time, and it costs them 20 lives sometimes because they can't complete it. And these 15 to 20 point health swings, they happen at least every other game for players, and sometimes even multiple times in a game, where they could deal 10 damage to someone else, but instead they took 15. Climbing to top 100 or top 10 is simply a matter of being more consistent than every other challenger, or maybe even discovering a new strategy before others do. Also, another example of why the game is not even close to being played perfectly by any player is that you should theoretically scout every turn and see which comp on your bench works best against every single player. And it's not necessarily just the strongest power level comp, because everything changes based on items and other compositions that people are going. Another thing is, whenever I watch a top player, they're often highly critical of themselves, and they make mistakes maybe even once every turn. And again, this is all because of the time limit in each game. Some of these mistakes are obvious, such as forgetting to complete an item, but some of them are not obvious. For example, in the beginning of the game, if you have all level 1 woodlands or 3 infernos, which one is actually better? You don't actually know that unless you play maybe like 50 games in each scenario with different placements every time against the same exact lobby. And we just don't have the resources or time to do that. People fail to recognize that there's an expected value of each of these comps, and no one actually knows what the numerical values of these compositions are. And all these little mistakes, they can add up. 5 points here and 5 points there, and that's the difference between getting 4th or 5th place, which can lose or gain LP. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just to sum up, if you're an iron, don't fret, just keep playing the game. You'll eventually be able to learn all the concepts you need to know. In bronze, maybe download a cheat sheet, learn all the champions and what synergies they're in order to be able to go into specific compositions that you'd like to play. Also try to learn how to beat all the neutral camps, and also try to maybe go on a website. Just pretty much any website will do. I'm not going to shout out any one of them, but just look up, literally go into Google and type in top comps for 9.23 or whatever the patch is, to see what comps are strong in this meta. Or you could look at my video down below to get an idea of what could be played. Silver's kind of like the midpoint, and these players really need to focus on learning why they're using certain techniques, such as when they're rolling, start to take a note of why you are rolling and not just doing it automatically or because you have a lot of gold. At gold, I feel like you're at the point where you're able to start to learn from a basic YouTube guide and implement whatever the producer says to do. And you might get good results with it. At Platinum, you really want to try to master economy management. And again, you can learn a lot of this from my video down below, because a lot of people are not doing this. People really overvalue what composition they run when the game's really mostly about positioning and economy management. At Diamond, again, you know almost everything there is to know, but you just need to keep doing the repetition until everything becomes automatic to you, because again, these players are likely putting a lot of thought into and effort into their plays, whereas someone in a higher level, they're doing it automatically. Master and Grandmaster, these tiers are pretty similar. They focus more on making the optimal plays, and maybe they try to adapt in more scenarios than people in Diamond and below. Like, even though they're forcing a comp in 80% of their games, they still have that 20% where they're adapting maybe, whereas someone in Diamond might just 100% hard force a comp still. Next up, we have Challenger, and at this stage, most plays become automatic, but it's just a matter of consistency on where you stand in Challenger, because again, there are no secrets in the game. You could learn how the top players are playing every single day, and you just need to be very, very consistent and try to make fewer mistakes than other people. Because again, this game is very far from optimized. The top players make multiple mistakes every game, sometimes a mistake every turn, and that just means that there's so much room to grow for players to get better. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you like this, hit the subscribe button down below. Smash that like button. You guys know the drill, and maybe even share it with a friend who might be hard stuck and they don't know how to improve in their certain ELO. Again, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe, and of course smash that like button. Each like is an LP I gain before the next video.